You are an immortal being. You cannot die. Because you're all imagination. And when you actually know it from experience, then you can wipe your tears. Nothing can pass away. You may not see them with a mortal eye, touch them with a mortal hand, but they are in a world just as real as this. Just as real. Continuing the journey until they reach that moment in time when they are resurrected. And then the scattered body begins to be collected, and they're gathered together into one. So one must be all, and comprehend within himself all things, both great and small. And you are that one that actually fell, and then in falling you became fragmented. You became divided into the unnumbered parts, and each seems to be independent of you as you look out on it. You're only looking out on yourself pushed out. And your whole vast world must make real your unknowing imaginal acts, or your knowing imaginal acts. I ask you to trust this teaching. Believe in your imaginal acts. You may not see it tonight or tomorrow, but believe in it. Actually assume the most glorious thing in the world for yourself or any aspect of yourself. Trust it. And that imaginal act, if it takes 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 of your projected selves, will use them to make that thing become real in your world. As she said in her letter to me, you may call it imagination, or some may call it thought. For this I do know, having remembered what I did last year, I can say it does produce reality. As I've told you time and time again, imagining creates reality. Yet all the objective facts of the world are produced through imagination. There isn't a thing that you can name in this world that wasn't first imagined. But you can veto it the minute you imagine it. You can say, as she could have said, we can't afford it, and stop it. She didn't say we can't afford $1,000 for the roof. She saw the roof, and it was new. But she didn't see the robbery. That's to me. Now, let me turn you now to the 55th chapter of Isaiah. My ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than yours. This is the chapter where you are told, my word shall not return unto me void, but it must accomplish that which I purpose and prosper in the thing for which I sent it. So my ways are higher than your ways. Don't concern yourself with how it's going to be done. For the same voice who spoke these words said this in the 32nd chapter of Deuteronomy, the 39th verse. I, even I, am He. I kill, I make alive, I wound, I heal. I do all these things, and none can deliver out of my hand. He's playing all the parts. And if one is basically inclined to steal, he will use it to produce the necessary means to get the money to put on the roof. So she comes home and there was a robbery. All the things have been replaced with new ones and better ones as she desired them. At the moment it seemed to be a shock, but she set the whole thing up in motion, for she's the one who spoke those words. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal, and none can deliver out of my hands. For the Spirit of God and the human imagination are one, and there is nothing but God. all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. And so if all things are made by him, is there a thief in the world? He's playing that part. Is there a so-called hero in the world? He's playing that part. A coward? He's playing that part. He's playing every part in the world, and it all adds up to produce the unseen imaginal acts of men. So you are alone, and you think no one sees me, and this means nothing. It's only my imagination. And you carry on your lovely imaginal act. And so that's it. Not knowing that you're actually producing tomorrow's effects in this world. And when it comes into the world, that natural effect has an unseen, invisible, imaginal act as cause, and not a natural cause. A natural cause only seen. It is a delusion. Delusion of what? Of your fading memory. You don't remember when you did it. So when confronted with your own harvest, you can't quite believe it. You can't remember when you did anything that could actually be like this. I didn't rob myself. I never thought for one moment of robbing to get the money. No, but I did see the whole thing done. And there are thieves in the world, all over the world, and they're all played by God. There is nothing but God. God only acts and is in existing beings or men. Now let me find that actor, because God only acts, and he is in all existing beings or men. Well, I'm a man. I've got to find that actor. For the thing that I see reflected in the mirror when I shave in the morning is a mask. That's persona. Now, who is wearing that mask? I answer, you say, Neville. I turn around, and I say, yes, here I am. But who is the being that is there? I am. That's my real name. But the mask is called Neville. But I will say, I am Neville. So the wearer of the mask called Neville responds. That being in that mask, behind that mask that no one sees, is God.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in or watching this on video on demand, however you're viewing it. Tonight I'm going to read out some selections from the book Your Faith is Your Fortune. And it's from, I think, 41 or 39. We check the book, make sure. Pretty sure it's Neville's first book. I've got in here the Liquid Light chapter already picked out. That's one of the ones we're going to do. And it's super short. It's only, you can see, 2 pages. You just see at the front if it's got the year. 1941. So I'm pretty sure before this he'd only been doing pamphlets and some of the and lectures. I'm not sure. Once we get to it, we can clarify the timeline on it. But the 5 lessons, I'm not sure if that was before or after this book. And we are going to do all the 5 lessons at some point. But I'll break it up where I'm doing it like one piece, like once a week or something. But tonight we're going to do fishing. We're going to go fishing. And liquid light, prayer, and interval of time. The interval of time one is great because I know a lot of people who are new or have been manifesting for a while, either or, you have a lot of questions about time. Because for the most part, there seems to be an interval of time between when you imagine something and when you experience its manifestation in the exterior world. And questions related to that are dealt with pretty succinctly in that particular chapter of Neville's literal first book. So I feel like a lot when people have those kind of questions, it's like they're almost being lazy and they're admitting that they never have even read Neville. They're just parroting things that they've seen from other sources who also haven't read Neville. But we're going to read it, and you're going to get the answers firsthand, and then you have no excuse to be sending me text asking these questions again, because I'll literally just tell you, oh, I talked about that in this stream, here's the link. Or just go read it in interval of time. Also, let me give a little shout out to Camplicated. Campbell does the music that you hear at the beginning of the stream. He was live today with his trio. They play every Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can follow them, click the bell icon so you get the notification. And next weekend you can tune in and watch them live, or you can go check it out now. Have that music playing in the background while you're listening to this. Okay, I don't really have anything else, any other sort of introductory rant for today, so we're just going to go straight into it. I will say that I think there's really, of all the Neville I've read, which I have read all the books and about half of the lectures, this chapter, Fishing, and the book, Feeling is the Secret, is all anybody needs. Okay? So, I've been told before, where's the handbook? We didn't get a handbook. We actually did get a handbook. I mean, this is the extended version of it, but the short version of it is you just need to read Fishing and Feeling is the Secret, and that's it. That's the handbook. That's the manual. You were given it. You just didn't notice it. You could also say the Bible is the handbook too. But all right, so today we're going to read the handbook. All right, Fishing. Also the other cool thing about this particular chapter is that in this, and to a degree in Liquid Light, he references the flood of facts and explains a little more of the Noah analogy, of the ark analogy, which is just a metaphor for us, for your consciousness. Okay. They went forth and entered into a ship, and that night they caught nothing. And oh wait, I gotta pop it in the reading, sorry. We'll start over. There we go. They went forth and entered into a ship, and that night they caught nothing. And he said unto them, Cast the net on the right side of the ship, and ye shall find. They cast therefore, and now they were notable to draw it for the multitude of fishes. It is recorded that the disciples fished all night and caught nothing. Then Jesus appeared upon the scene and told them to cast their nets again, but this time to cast them on the right side. Peter obeyed the voice of Jesus and cast his nets once more into the waters. Where but a moment before the water was completely empty of fish, the nets almost broke with the number of the resulting catch. Man, fishing all through the night of human ignorance, attempts to realize his desires through effort and struggle, only to find in the end that his search is fruitless. When man discovers his awareness of being to be Christ Jesus, he will obey its voice and let it direct his fishing. He will cast his hook on the right side. He will apply the law in the right manner and will seek in consciousness for the thing desired. Finding it there, he will know that it will be multiplied in the world of form. Those who have had the pleasure of fishing know what a thrill it is to feel the fish upon the hook. The bite of the fish is followed by the play of the fish. This play, in turn, is followed by the landing of the fish. Something similar takes place in the consciousness of man as he fishes for the manifestations of life. Fishermen know that if they want to catch big fish, they must fish in deep waters. If you would catch a large measure of life, you must leave behind you the shallow waters with its many reefs and barriers and launch out into the deep blue waters where the big ones play. To catch the large manifestations of life, you must enter into deeper and freer states of consciousness. Only in these depths do the big expressions of life live. Here is a simple formula for successful fishing. First, decide what it is you want to express or possess. This is essential. You must definitely know what you want of life before you can fish for it. After your decision is made, turn from the world of sense, remove your attention from the problem, and place it on just being, by repeating quietly but with feeling, I am. As your attention is removed from the world round about you and placed upon the I am, so that you are lost in the feeling of simply being, you will find yourself slipping the anchor that tied you to the shallows of your problem, and effortlessly you will find yourself moving out into the deep. The sensation which accompanies this act is one of expansion. You will feel yourself rise and expand as though you were actually growing. Do not be afraid of this floating, growing experience, for you are not going to die to anything but your limitations. However, your limitations are going to die as you move away from them, for they live only in your consciousness. In this deep or expanded consciousness, you will feel yourself to be a mighty pulsating power, as deep and as rhythmical as the ocean. This expanded feeling is the signal that you are now in the deep blue waters where the big fish swim. Suppose the fish you decide to catch were health and freedom. You begin to fish in this formless pulsating depth of yourself, for these qualities are states of consciousness by feeling, I am healthy, I am free. You continue claiming and feeling yourself to be healthy and free until the conviction that you are so possesses you. As the conviction is born within you, so that all doubts pass away, and you know and feel that you are free from the limitations of the past, you will know that you have hooked these fish. The joy which courses through your entire being on the feeling that you are that which you desire to be is equal to the thrill of the fisherman as he hooks his fish. Now comes the play of the fish. This is accomplished by returning to the world of the senses. As you open your eyes on the world round about you, the conviction and the consciousness that you are healthy and free should be so established within you that your whole being thrills in anticipation. That as you walk through the necessary interval of time that it will take the things felt to embody themselves, you will feel a secret thrill, and knowing that in a little while that which no man sees, but that which you feel and know that you are, will be landed. In a moment when you think not, while you faithfully walk in this consciousness, you will begin to express and possess that which you are conscious of being and possessing, experiencing with the fisherman the joy of landing the big one. Now go and fish for the manifestations of life by casting your nets in the right side. What's super interesting about this chapter for me personally is that close to 20 years. Let's see, it would have been not close to 20, about 15. About 15 years before I read this, I read a book by the director, painter David Lynch, which anybody who knows film will know David Lynch, called Catching the Big Fish. And it's the same thing, but David comes from the perspective of transcendental meditation. As far as I know, he's a transcendentalist, and meditates daily, and does it to enhance his creativity. And that's how he gets all the ideas for his paintings, his movies, whatever. And he meditates and gets a hold of those ideas then. So whether you're using this to enhance your creative awareness or to direct your personal life, and whether you're calling it meditation or you're calling it imagining or whatever, it's still the same thing. And here Neville is recommending, and I find it to be effective, to get in that super relaxed state, to use focusing on I am, to basically, it is the same as meditation, where you have that's form of meditation where you have like a key phrase that you're focusing on, to use that to let go of the exterior world. And then once you feel you've really accomplished that, that's when you would move into whatever, maybe a scene you've devised, or just the general feeling of that thing, of having that thing and being the person that has that thing or does that thing, no matter what it is. When we get to interval of time, in just a little bit, we're going to address this time between the play. When you've got the fish on the line and you've kept it on the line, you haven't let it go, because some people let it get away. You haven't let it get away, but you haven't landed the fish yet. That period of time is for a lot of people really difficult, because some of them, they just want to throw the pole into the ocean altogether. And I've been there too, because you feel like, I've been reeling this thing in forever. Where is it? And I think when you encounter that, the best thing to do is to go back and just catch it again. You're not going to hurt anything by catching it again. It's not going to cause a delay or anything like that. It's just a great way to remind yourself that you have embodied this, and you are going to express it in the frame of time. Liquid light is the next one we're going to do. It's super quick. I showed y'all. In him we live and move and have our being. Psychically, I think it's psychically. Psychically, this world appears. It's physically. It's definitely. Let me check. I want to make sure I get that right, because I think this is an important chapter. That's how it's stated. Psychically, this world appears as an ocean of light, containing within itself all things, including man, as pulsating bodies enveloped in liquid light. The biblical story of the flood is the state in which man lives. Man is actually inundated in an ocean of liquid light in which countless numbers of light beings move. The story of the flood is really being enacted today. Man is the ark, containing within himself the male-female principles of every living thing. The dove or idea, which is sent out to find dry land, is man's attempt to embody his ideas. Man's ideas resemble birds in flight, like the dove in the story, returning to man without finding a place to rest. If a man will not let such fruitless searches discourage him, one day the bird will return with a green sprig. After assuming the consciousness of the thing desired, he will be convinced that it is so. He will feel and know that he is that which he has consciously appropriated, even though it is not yet confirmed by the senses. One day man will become so identified with his conception that he will know it to be himself, and he will declare, I am. I am that which I desire to be. I am that I am. He will find that as he does so, he will begin to embody his desire. The dove or desire will this time find dry land, thereby realizing the mystery of the Word made flesh. Everything in the world is a crystallization of this liquid light. I am the light of the world. Your awareness of being is the liquid light of the world, which crystallizes into the conceptions you have of yourself. Your unconditioned awareness of being first conceived itself in liquid light, which is the initial velocity of the universe. All things, from the highest to the lowest vibrations or expressions of life, are nothing more than the different vibrations of velocities of this initial velocity. Gold, silver, iron, wood, flesh, etc. are only different expressions or velocities of this one substance, liquid light. All things are crystallized liquid light. The differentiation or infinity of expression is caused by the conceiver's desire to know himself. Your conception of yourself automatically determines the velocity necessary to express that which you have conceived yourself to be. The world is an ocean of liquid light in countless different states of crystallization. This chapter, Neville is trying to explain a vision he had before he started giving lectures that I had a version of. Because I saw the boundless ocean of liquid light in a meditative state. I didn't know what it was, even though I had read about it in another book about 2 or 3 weeks earlier. And then I read a different book 2 or 3 weeks later and was like, that's what happened to me. That's where I was. That experience alone, because I'd already had manifestations, but that experience, which I can't explain it. There's no words for it. It's stupid to even try to explain it because it was an experience beyond words. But I knew when I read this that that's what it was. And he had the same experience when he was in, I think, a hotel before he started giving lectures. And so this chapter is him trying to explain what's going on here, trying to put into words something that you cannot put into words, and then giving this overall operating mechanism for it. This idea that there's one initial velocity, and then everything you experience is just like an alternative to it. Like it's really just like it's just musical, you know. I think the whole law of attraction movement, I don't really know, but I'm guessing that a lot of them were influenced by reading this and taking the whole vibration thing and really just hyper-focusing on that and being less concerned with the biblical aspect and with the practical technique aspect of it, which is literally if you want anything and you're so busy in your mind that you can't focus on it during the day, to take that time when you are relaxed, either when you have some downtime or when you're right before you're going to sleep or right when you're waking up, take that time and take advantage of that time to let go of everything that's going on in your life right now and experience within yourself having the thing that you desire. And then prayer is a great chapter because it has it again addresses the practical aspect of this in the way that the latter end of the chapter fishing did. And it clarifies what is meant by prayer. Okay? When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Prayer is the most wonderful experience man can have. Unlike the daily murmurings of the vast majority of mankind in all lands, who by their vain repetitions hope to gain the ear of God, prayer is the ecstasy of a spiritual wedding taking place in the deep, silent stillness of consciousness. In its true sense, prayer is God's marriage ceremony. Just as a maid on her wedding day relinquishes the name of her family to assume the name of her husband, in like manner, one who prays must relinquish his present name or nature and assume the nature of that for which he prays. The Gospels have clearly instructed man as to the performance of this ceremony in the following manner. When ye pray, go within in secret, and shut the door, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. The going within is the entering of the bridal chamber, just as no one but the bride and groom are permitted to enter so holy a room as the bridal suite on the night of the marriage ceremony. Likewise, no one but the one who prays, and that for which he prays, are permitted to enter the holy hour of prayer. As the bride and groom, on entering the bridal suite, securely shut the door against the outside world, so too must the one who enters the holy hour of prayer close the door of the senses and entirely shut out the world about him. This is accomplished by taking the attention completely away from all things other than that which you are now in love with, the thing desired. The second phase of this spiritual ceremony is defined in these words: when ye pray, believe that ye receive, and ye shall receive. As you joyfully contemplate being and possessing that which you desire to be and to have, you have taken this second step and are therefore spiritually performing the acts of marriage and generation. Your receptive attitude of mind while praying or contemplating can be likened to a bride or womb, for that aspect of mind is that which receives the impressions. That which you contemplate being is the groom, for it is the name or nature you assume, and therefore is that which leaves its impregnation. So one dies to maidenhood or present nature, as one assumes the name and nature of the impregnation. Lost in contemplation, and having assumed the name and nature of the thing contemplated, your whole being thrills with the joy of being it. This thrill, which runs through your entire being, as you appropriate the consciousness of your desire, is the proof that you are both married and impregnated. As you return from this silent meditation, the door is once more opened upon the world you have left behind. But this time you return as a pregnant bride. You enter the world a changed being, and although no one but you knows of the wonderful romance, the world will, in a very short while, see the signs of your pregnancy, for you will begin to express that which you, in your hour of silence, felt yourself to be. The mother of the world, or bride of the Lord, is purposely called Mary, or water, for water loses its identity as it assumes the nature of that with which it is mixed. Likewise, Mary, the receptive attitude of mind, must lose its identity as it assumes the nature of the thing desired. Only as one is willing to give up his present limitations and identity can he become that what he desires to be. If anyone wants to hear more on this topic, look back a couple streams. Changing the feeling of I is just all that, reiterated a bunch more times. Prayer is the formula by which such divorces and marriages are accomplished. Two shall agree as touching anything, and it shall be established on earth. The two are agreeing are you, the bride, and the thing desired, the groom. All right, I clarified this one before because people have totally misinterpreted this and used it as sort of like a chain letter type thing of being like, well, I want something, I know you want something, let's both agree that we have the thing because of this phrase. And that's not what it means. That's not at all what it means. It's clear here that your mind and desire are the thing that must agree. You must agree that you have the thing you desire in your mind. That's the two, is you and your desire. Those are the things that have to agree. There's another little thing here. Oh, in general, today is so far 3 metaphors for the imaginative process. We started with the fishing, the Noah sending out the dove was mentioned, and now this is one that Neville goes back to a lot, of the bride and groom. And usually he'll compare them to the wife is the subconscious and the husband is the conscious daily operative mind. So yeah, those are metaphors that comes up in his work quite a lot. There's a lot of bird symbolism he discusses. Fishing, I don't think comes up too many other times, but the ocean of liquid light obviously comes up in other writings. But that whole conscious subconscious duality, a wife husband creative partnership, is a metaphor that he likes to use quite often. Okay. The two agreeing are you, the bride, and the thing desired, the groom. As this agreement is accomplished, a son bearing witness of this union will be born. You will begin to express and possess that which you are conscious of being. Praying then is recognizing yourself to be that which you desire to be, rather than begging God for that which you desire. Millions of prayers are daily unanswered because man prays to a God who does not exist. Consciousness being God, one must seek in consciousness for the thing desired, by assuming the consciousness of the quality desired. Only as one does this will his prayers be answered. To be conscious of being poor while praying for riches is to be rewarded with that which you are conscious of being, namely poverty. Prayers to be successful must be claimed and appropriated. Assume the positive consciousness of the thing desired. With your desire defined, quietly go within and shut the door behind you. Lose yourself in your desire. Feel yourself to be one with it. Remain in this fixation until you have absorbed the life and name by claiming and feeling yourself to be and to have that which you desired. When you emerge from the hour of prayer, you must do so, conscious of being and possessing that which you heretofore desired. And I think this is a lot of why Neville encouraged repetition. Because for people who are sort of new to consciously imagining, you're going to have the problem of you felt it for that time period when you were imagining and then let go of it and returned instead to feeling predominantly that you don't have it. And this sort of dance within the mind can be a pretty frustrating experience as you go back and forth. But I think as you more in those quiet, relaxed times are going into your scenes and going into those feelings of being this new conception of yourself, the more those unwanted thoughts of the present reality are just going to get crowded out. We talked about that when in my very first stream in the Coin of Heaven. He discusses that sort of change of consciousness at a little more depth. Interval of time, which, man, I got through these quick, also discusses it. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. The me in whom you must believe is your consciousness. The I am, it is God. It is also the Father's house, containing within itself all conceivable states of consciousness. Every conditioned state of consciousness is called a mansion. The conversation takes place within yourself. Your I am, the unconditioned consciousness, is the Christ Jesus speaking to the conditioned self, or the John Smith consciousness. I am John, from a mystical point of view, is two beings, namely Christ and John. So I go to prepare a place for you, moving from your present state of consciousness into that state desired. It is a promise by your Christ or awareness of being to your present conception of yourself that you will leave your present consciousness and appropriate another. But I mean, this rant could have come in another 5 minutes, but it's going to come now. How different is your life from a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I bet there's some people here that aren't even living in the same physical location they were a year ago. And most of you like, let's make it longer. Let's make it 20 years. Do you live in the same house still? If there's like one or two people who, like still living in the same house you lived in 20 years ago and haven't lived anywhere else in the meantime, okay, cool. But most of the people watching this are going to be living physically somewhere different than they were 20 years ago. So don't tell me that the world is static. There are so many, basically everything in your life is different to how it was just yesterday. If you really examine it and look at it closely, the facts, the so-called facts of the world, are constantly shifting and changing. There are things you possess now, whether they're objects, they're qualities of yourself, they're a position you have in life, they're a relationship that is a primary part of your life, things that are very important and a central part of your life now that were not a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You didn't even, like, if it's a relationship, you didn't even know that person. If it's a job, you may never even heard of that company. So keep that in mind when you're imagining for something. Like, the facts of the world change. People make massive moves in their life all the time, and people definitely make, smaller moves that maybe you and your lack of consciousness have made into a big thing. Like something like on the objective scale, something like $1,000 is really no amount of money. But you may be in a state right now where $1,000 is a lot of money. It's time for you to move into freer waters and be like, and see that that is something easy to come by, not something difficult to obtain. So, the one thing I always want to encourage people is don't limit yourself. And if you just look at the shape of your life, so many things in your life have already changed in massive ways. And if you go back to before that change occurred and could remember some of those thoughts and some of the state you were in then, you probably felt that it was so impossible for that thing to ever change in your life. But now it has, to the point that you totally take it for granted. When we're trying to catch the big fish, catch the mood, we're trying to catch those states where it's like, if you have a job now and it's been your job for like 3 or 4 years and it's just part of your identity now, well, there was a version of you 4 years ago that didn't have that job. Now you've got it. It's part of who you are. Well, if you're fishing for a new job, that's the state you want to aim for, the one where I've had this job for 4 years. It's what I do. It's my job. I work here. I make X amount of money a month or a year or a day, whatever your desire there is. My duties are this, and that. My days tend to go like this. I tend to interact with these people. I have these responsibilities and this specific title. You've already done it. You've already experienced it now. Now just take it and apply it to something else you'd like. Something you'd like to have instead of what you got now. Okay. Man is such a slave to time that if after he has appropriated a state of consciousness, which is not now seen by the world, and the appropriated state, does not immediately embody itself, he loses faith in his unseen claim. Forthwith he drops it and returns to his former static state of being. Because of this limitation of man, I have found it very helpful to employ a specific interval of time in making this journey into a prepared mansion. Wait but a little while. We have all catalogued the different days of the week, months of the year, and seasons. By this I mean you and I have said time and time again why today feels just like Sunday, or Monday, or Saturday. We have also said in the middle of summer why this feels and looks like the fall of the year. This is positive proof that you and I have definite feelings associated with these different days, months, and seasons of the year. Because of this association, we can at any time consciously dwell in that day or season which we have selected. Do not selfishly define this interval in days and hours because you are anxious to receive it, but simply remain in the conviction that it is done. Time, being purely relative, should be eliminated entirely, and your desire will be fulfilled. This ability to dwell at any point in time permits us to employ time in our travel into the desired mansion. I feel like for some people here, it seems like there is conflicting evidence. Because on one hand, you're told you can take the mood of whether, if you have a certain mood you associate with a day of the week or certain activities you'd also be doing on that day, or obviously a season or a holiday or something like that, you can take those elements and add them into whatever you're imagining. At the same time, you're told don't pick a time based on you want it soon. Pick a little bit of time from now, but don't make it too soon, which is, and also disregard time entirely when you concoct the scene. I think what's going on here is Neville is trying to help people who are having issues with faithlessness by saying you can add time as a way to really reassure yourself and add in that element of certainty to what you've imagined. So, all right, so right now it's mid-January. We don't have any big holidays coming up, but it is pretty cold. You do kind of have that it's a new year sense in January's. There might be some other things during this time of year that are occurring for you, like maybe other people's birthdays or any sort of like things you do every January. It's like New Year's type of rituals. Certainly the weather is colder. You can take those elements and bake it into whatever scene you're doing. But the idea is that when you're imagining, for the most part, you're like, whatever time you're going to pick, it's now. I talked about this either last stream or stream before, where Neville was talking about being in Los Angeles, imagining he's in New York. When he's imagining he's in New York, he's in New York. So if you pick a period of time, if you pick, well, I know what February feels like, so I'm going to decide that this thing's going to happen to me in February, and so you bake that element into your scene, into your imaginal act. When you imagine that, it's February. In that hour of prayer, in that time when you are really sinking into this feeling, whether your eyes are open or closed, or you're driving or walking down the street, or you're laying in your bed with all the lights out, whatever you're doing, when you're doing that, it's February in that moment of time. And your consciousness, the time you're in, is February, if you're going to include time in your scenes. But you don't have to, because the point is, whatever you imagine for, it's happening now. Now is when this thing happens. Now is when you claim the state. This ability to dwell at any point in time permits us to employ time in our travel into the desired mansion. Now I, consciousness, go to a point in time and there prepare a place. If I go to such a point in time and prepare a place, I shall return to this point in time where I have left, and I shall pick up and take you with me into that place which I have prepared, that where I am, there ye may be also. Let me give you an example of this travel. Suppose you have an intense desire. Like most men who are enslaved by time, you might feel that you could not possibly realize so large a desire in a limited interval. But admitting that all things are possible to God, believing God to be the me within you, or your consciousness of being, you can say, as John, I can do nothing. But since all things are possible to God, and God I know to be my consciousness of being, I can realize my desire in a little while. How my desire will be realized, I do not as John know, but by the very law of my being, I do know that it shall be. With this belief firmly established, decide what would be a relative rational interval of time in which such a desire could be realized. Again, let me remind you not to shorten the interval of time because you are anxious to receive your desire. Make it a natural interval. No one can give you the time interval. Only you can say what the natural interval would be to you. The interval of time is relative. That is, no two individuals would give the same measurement of time for the realization of their desire. This next thing I think is one of Neville's best quotes about time. Time is ever conditioned by man's conception of himself. Confidence in yourself, as determined by the conditioned consciousness, always shortens the interval of time. So, okay, let's take two people who want to have an actual mansion. There's two people, they both have desires for different mansions because mansions are specific, right? But there's two people and they both want mansions. And one person they've manifested a ton of things. They've already manifested crazy stuff, like actual miracles, basically whatever material objects they want. A totally easy life, all the relationships they want are in an ideal condition. Basically their life is perfect, and they manifested a lot of things for other people and for the world at large, and they're extremely happy and content all the time. They're in a really great state. They know the law works, and so one day they wake up, they're like, I really want a mansion. And to them it feels quite possible to have a mansion before the end of the week. And they've done a lot of scenes and been able to bake this thing of time into it. They've pretty much mastered it. So since it's a Monday, they feel it's a Monday. They can close their eyes, feel it's Friday, and they've got the mansion Friday the same week. And that manifests for them. Now you got another person who really has only manifested a couple things. Doesn't have, they know the law works, but they don't believe it absolutely. They really haven't bought what Neville calls the pearl of great price, which is they don't believe that their imagination is the only force of power. They still believe there are other things which could interfere in them receiving their desires and experiencing that which they've selected. And there's still a lot of things that they haven't manifested yet and feel like maybe I can't manifest this. Maybe some of their relationships are in the right spot, but another part of their life is like lacking. Maybe there's a best friend they haven't talked to in 5 years and they feel like, I'm really missing that relationship in my life. Maybe they have a job they like, but it's not paying the amount of money they want. And so related to that, they think, well, I'm not even in the financial position I want to be in right now. I don't even think I could afford a mansion, but you know what? Let me do it anyway. Let me imagine it anyway. And then based on that money one, they might say, well, geez, it's going to take me 10 years to afford a mansion. I don't even know what 10 years feels like, but, 10 years from now, I'll have a certain look. I'll certainly have some gray hairs. So let me put myself into that mansion, but it's 10 years from now. And so they devise that scene, and it does manifest for them, but it manifests 10 years later. That same person, this latter example, had they in that moment said, you know what, I'm going to really go for this. I'm in this moment going to believe in myself. Let's get this mansion by Friday. And they really stayed true to that. And they really did imagine Friday and stayed true to that. I do think they could have that mansion by Friday. If they really captured also in their consciousness that confidence in themselves, in the Father, in the imaginative process. So yeah, that's a little bit of my diatribe there. At the same time, my experience of time has been, A, I have a vague sense of time, and B, I have no idea why things pop or manifest when they do, for the most part. There's been very few things where I have been able to tie it to a sense of time. For the most part, things just seem to show up randomly. And they definitely don't, because there's this one really crappy assumption out there that if you've come across this before, like if you're someone who has come in at this from a law of attraction space, please let go of this assumption. There's an assumption that you need to be happy or in a high vibration in order to manifest anything, which is stupid, which is so stupid. You don't. I have had manifestations occur on days when I'm feeling awful, and it's literally things that I consciously visualized, wrote in my books, had affirmations about, and they would just pop at times in the day when I felt awful, and then they would manifest. I wasn't thinking about them; they just showed up, and it had no relationship to my vibration or my overall mood that day. So don't limit yourself based on that, because that assumption will also express. If you think you have to feel good to have anything you want show up in your life, that's going to become true for you. So be very careful about that assumption. Things show up whenever, all the time. And you're like, now, of course, I realize that I could adjust that and say, well, I am very good at manifesting on a time schedule. But so far, I'm still moving into that consciousness. This, for me, is still a process. And having a strong sense of time is also still a process, and kind of one that I'm not sure if I even want to really go that route, because I kind of like not having a sense of time, if that makes sense. I kind of like everything just being like now, and there's little moods to it, like seasons and holidays and times of the day, but I don't have this very firm grasp of time. Like, I'm kind of okay with that. And that's my conception of myself. You, if you're someone who's very regimented, have a very shrewd sense of time, I bet you will find very quickly that you can manifest things at a certain time, even at a specific time on the clock, if you have that keen of a sense of time. Okay, if you were accustomed to great accomplishments, you would give yourself a much shorter interval in which to accomplish your desire than the man schooled in defeat. If today were Wednesday and you decided that it would be quite possible for your desire to embody a new realization of yourself by Sunday, then Sunday becomes the point in time that you would visit. To make this visit, you shut out Wednesday and let in Sunday. That is accomplished by simply feeling that it is Sunday. Begin to hear the church bells, begin to feel the quietness of the day, and all that Sunday means to you. Actually feel that it is Sunday. When this is accomplished, feel the joy of having received that which on Wednesday was but a desire. Feel the complete thrill of having received it, and then return to Wednesday, the point in time you left behind you. In doing this, you created a vacuum in consciousness by moving from Wednesday to Sunday. Nature, abhorring vacuums, rushes in to fill it, thereby fashioning a mold in the likeness of that which you potentially create, namely the joy of having realized your defined desire. As you return to Wednesday, you will be filled with a joyful expectancy, because you have established a consciousness of that which must take place the following Sunday. As you walk through the interval of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, nothing disturbs you regardless of conditions, because you predetermined that which you would be on the Sabbath, and that remains an unalterable conviction. Having gone before and prepared the place, you have returned to John and are now taking him with you through the interval of 3 days to the prepared place, that he might share your joy with you. For where I am, there you may also be. My friend Monica, hopefully somebody she'll get to watch these, she has had success with time-based manifestations, and her specific advice to me, because this was the pattern she noticed with hers, was that she had success where things showed up in her awareness with a time interval already defined. So if it was an event that, when she became aware of it, when someone told her about it, already had a date assigned to it, that's already baked into it. So if the thing's going to happen on a certain day, she's got to manifest it to be on that day. So that was how she was able to marry time to the manifestation, because the conception of it arrived with the time. I just came up with a practical one that people could try. If you're someone who receives a paycheck on a specific day and in a specific way, like you say, you still get a paper check. Like, I can remember what that feeling is like when it's a Friday and you get that check. When it's a Friday evening and you've worked all week and you get that check, you can tap that feeling, tap that experience, and make that check a little bigger. If there's a raise you've been wanting, you feel you haven't gotten, go into your imagination. It's Friday. You're holding the check in your hand, and the amount that you want more on that check is now there, reflected on the balance for the week. See how that unfolds for you. It'll be interesting, because some people, I think, will get a raise or will get some kind of bonus. Other people might end up having to work extra hours. I'm just saying, I'm just warning you, there is a risk there. But I think for the most part, you will get the raise or you'll get some kind of bonus. But the more masochistic of you are going to work more. I guarantee it. Some other ones that people try a lot is birthdays and holidays. And I think if you're new to manifesting, I mostly wouldn't advise that until you have a very firm confidence in your imagination. Because it can lead to a lot of disappointment-based experiences that are just going to set you back. Because what will happen is if you have no real confidence in this process and no real confidence in yourself as a person right now, and you imagine for something to happen on your birthday, when it doesn't happen, you're going to beat yourself up. If that's the state of consciousness you're starting from, of like feeling like these things aren't possible to you and nothing really goes right for you, and you try this and then it doesn't happen on that birthday, like it's going to set you back, and it's going to set you back quite a lot. So those kind of things I wouldn't necessarily advise. I think taking little simple things and tying manifestations to those might be a little bit easier. Like if you have certain rituals, certain days of the week, you can take any one of your manifestations and tie it to that sort of ritual that appears at that time of day for you, or that kind of, that. I'm just trying to think of like morning coffee on certain days of the week feels a little bit different. Like that sort of Monday morning coffee has a different feel than having coffee at a cafe on a Saturday. And there's a different time feel to that as well. So you can try baking those things into your different manifestations. All right, so I think and we're gonna wrap up early because I didn't think I would get through these chapters this quickly. I'm trying to remember if I have any other. And by the way, if you guys have if anyone here is watching has any questions, has any comments you want to make, please let me know. I would suggest as the exercise this week is try one time-based manifestation, and it can be as big or as small as you want it to be. I would and you could even try with things that you think you don't have power over. So let's say you watch and someone can try this exact specifics of this exercise and let me know how it goes for you. You can always tell me the results of your exercises by emailing imaginationstream@gmail.com. But so if you have a show you watch every week at a certain time, because that's definitely time bound, and you watch it every week as it airs, pick the topic or a plot or a character's name in the show that week, and know that you're watching this week's show, not next week's show. So today's Saturday, your show comes on Tuesday nights, skip ahead to Tuesday, you're watching the show, and put something into the show that would be unusual to be in the show. Like, let's say they have a new side character show up, and give them a silly name like Gus. And imagine a scene of Gus in the show with the other characters that their main characters, and see if that shows up for you. I bet it will, because I've had those kind of things happen. Sometimes too, what happens there is, if you're gonna manifest that, you'll get shown like a clip of it, like not tied to the time. So you might get like a clip recommended on YouTube, like, oh, Gus was actually on the show like 2 years ago. So things like that can happen too. But if someone out there still watch broadcast TV, and you have a favorite show, try that. Or you can do it with a specific line of dialogue. Pick your favorite character in the show, write them one line of dialogue, and imagine them saying it over and over, and you're watching the show on a specific night, and see if they say it. I'm pretty interested to hear if anyone tries that and how it turns out for you. But in general, try doing some time-based manifesting, picking certain things to pop for you on specific days, specific hours of the day, and see how that goes. I think that's it for tonight. On Tuesday, we're not doing revision yet, and I will be going back to a lecture though. because that seems to be an easier way to have it fill the certain amount of time I want these to do.